Welcome back to Rebecca Reviews. Today, we're actually going to do a little something different. It is another author interview, of course, but this one was introduced to me by a good friend of mine, Andrew Gordon. He told me about Merrill David, about his Wicked Awake series, and of course, his newest release, Fester, which I'm in the process of reading now. So you'll get a review about that one later. But today, we're going to talk to Merrill himself and find out what he's got in store for us, hear a little more about his books, and something else pretty exciting that I'm looking forward to. So here he is. Hi.
How are you doing, Rebecca?
I am wonderful. How are you?
Good to see you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, no problem. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's just start right off the bat and tell us all about Wicked Awake, that series.
Yeah, so that's something that, I started that process probably 6 or 7 years ago. Um, it was kind of all started. I was really into the Walking Dead and zombies and zombie movies and all that stuff. And my wife, but I always kind of criticized them. I guess I always kind of thought I could do them better than what I was doing. And so she's like, well, if you're such the zombie expert, why don't you go and write a book about zombies? And I'm a believer in the slower zombies and those shows, especially like World War Z and stuff. They were just way too fast for me. So not that it's still entertaining, but I wanted to write them. Night of the Living Dead is in my opinion that's what zombies are supposed to look like. So anyways, that's what started the process. I started writing the book. Never thought it would be anything more than just kind of like a hobby for me. Never thought I would ever publish it. And then a lot of things happen in my life where I actually put the book away for months at a time. And finally, it took me about 3 years to get that thing written, just because I kept putting it away, bringing it back out. And then when I bring it back out, I'd kind of forgotten where I'd left off, forgotten some of the main points that I had in there. So I kind of had to go through it again and remind myself exactly what I was doing. But after the first one, the other ones have I don't have quite as many things holding me up in my life anymore. I've kind of gotten over some of those bumps in the road, so to speak, and so books 2 and 3 came much quicker, and so now I'm averaging about a book every 6 months is what I aim for. So like two a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about. I read that you are a former law enforcement. So how does that play into one of your main characters in Wicked Awake?
Yeah, so I did about 25 years law enforcement, and so my main character in my series is Jake Hathaway, and coincidentally or not, he's a police officer. But yeah, my experience in my real life experiences, a lot of stories, a lot of scenes, a lot of things that Jake encounters and goes through in the books. Some of that stuff is real life, and some of the things that I really experienced or heard about. So I think it's kind of helped. I think people who are in law enforcement and read my books, they recognize that it was written by someone who is a cop or was a cop at one time.
Yeah.
I try to make them pretty authentic, but I also think the people who aren't as familiar with law enforcement read it. And I think that they get the vibes of this guy really knows what he's talking about.
Well, that's one thing I noticed when Andrew actually first told me about you. I picked up Wicked Awake, and the very first thing that I noticed was the fact that you pay a lot of attention to major details. Like, that's what made me realize that you're in Texas, because the detail that you said, I mean, you knew main back roads and things that most people in this area don't even know.
Well, I appreciate that, and you're right. I do put a lot of detail in, and especially here in the north central Texas area. um, particularly Dallas. But I do. But then a lot of my story, as you know, is also up in Rhode Island, Boston, New England area, and
Yeah.
so I try to do the same thing up there. But there are also some parts of the story where I do leave those two areas, but I do try to keep the detail just as straightforward and accurate. And so, and I don't know how many authors do this, but I jump on Google Maps all the time, and I'll okay. So let's say I did a couple scenes in Mississippi. So I'll actually find real cities, real counties on Google Maps, and I'll use actual real roads and real street names and stuff like that. I've had a couple of people tell me that later on. I think it was somebody that was in either Arkansas or Louisiana, and they said, "Hey, I just read your book, and I live there. I know exactly where you're talking about because I live right down the road from there." So it's kind of cool. I think people they can relate to a lot of the stuff better if it's
Oh yeah.
there.
Well, I mean, I did when I first started reading, and you're talking about downtown Dallas and Katie's and all these different roads. I'm like, I've actually been to all that. It's so cool,
Yeah.
especially Deep Ellum and West End. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that whole district there, where the whole, I got a major scene in Wicked Awake 1 where the whole Kennedy assassination took place there on Elm Street, and the whole sixth floor museum, and then all that stuff. And I tried to, the grassy knoll and the fence. And so, if anybody who's familiar with the Kennedy assassination or has been to that museum, I think they recognize all that stuff too. But
oh yeah, definitely.
Have you been there?
Oh yes, of course. We went on field trips during school and everything.
Okay.
So
yeah, no, no, and so I'm from New England, so the first time I went to the first floor museum, I mean, I had goosebumps. I mean, I was like, it's just such a historic place, and I was like, wow, this is it's kind of creepy because this is where it all went down.
Yeah, it is. I remember when they took us on field trips, we would walk the street and stand on the spot. Plus we'd go up, of course, to the museum and everything, and it's unreal.
Yeah, but you're right. They've actually got. I think it's still there. They had a big, huge X sprayed in the road. Where the limo was actually, and where he was actually at. So you can see when you're up in the museum, you can see, okay, there's the big X. That's where that bullet went down. It's creepy.
It really is. And I'll be honest, I love the fact that your books take place there, and it's relatable. It does make it more relatable, especially for somebody that has lived there, and knows the area. I mean, I've never lived in downtown Dallas, but still, I was only like 20 minutes away, so of course we went constantly.
Yeah.
We still do, and I'm an hour away now, so
Yeah, it's a cool place to visit.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So, why zombies though? What made you decide that zombies were going to be your thing?
Oh boy, I don't know. I love all horror. Zombies just happen to be my favorite, but I like all horror. I mean, sci-fi. I've always been really, really drawn to that stuff. I love the movies. The Halloween movies, the Friday the 13th. But yeah, like I said, Night of the Living Dead. Maybe that may be really what I can attribute all this to, is because I love that movie. That movie is so in the black and white, and just those creepy, slow zombies, and our main characters are trapped in that house, and this just, I don't know. That may be, I love that movie so much. That may be really where my love of zombies came from. But like I said, I love all horror. As you mentioned, Fester is something completely different, and I'm trying to now kind of stretch out and do some other forms of fiction as well. But yeah, I love zombies.
So, since you mentioned it, tell us about Fester.
Fester, I tell you what. So, I wanted to do something completely different from Wicked Awake, and not that Wicked Awake isn't doing well. or that I have a blast writing it, because I do. But sometimes I just want to do something a little different, just mix it up a little bit, and that's my whole thing with writing. This is a really a hobby for me. I'm doing it for fun, and so sometimes even writing Wicked Awake, as fun as that is, sometimes gets a little monotonous. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to mix it up a little bit. So I'm like, what? But I was also thinking, maybe if I write something completely different from Wicked Awake, because a lot of people aren't really into zombies and cops and the military and stuff like that, but they're still into horror. I was like, let me try to reach out, and actually my daughters are kind of that way. They love horror, but they're not really into the whole military and cops, and they like zombies. But I kind of wrote it a little bit, trying to write something that they might actually read, because I can't get them to read the Wicked Awake stuff. Uh, but anyways, yeah, I was trying to reach a different audience, but still do something completely different, and it was kind of a challenge to myself. But and then so it's sci-fi, but the main, I don't know how much I want to say. I don't want to spoil a whole lot of it, but
Oh, of course not.
yeah, but it's basically it's centered around a teenage girl, and so it's not all sci-fi. A lot of it is most of the story takes place here on Earth, and in the United States, and in Rhode Island, which I'm from Rhode Island, and like you were saying, I like to write about places that I know about. I mean, you can always do research on places, but it doesn't sometimes quite feel authentic. So I love to write about Rhode Island. A lot of people don't know about Rhode Island because it's such a small state. A lot of people haven't even been there, or they've driven through it. But I love to write about my home state. And anyway, so the main character is there, and she's encountering, and that was the hardest part about that book, was to try to write from the perspective of a female teenage girl. And like I said, I've got daughters, so they helped, but I did a lot of research on what are kids into these days and stuff like that. So that was the hardest part of writing that book. But anyway, she's going through a lot of the stuff, a lot of the issues that kids are going through nowadays, and everything from bullying to, so she's new in the school, new in the town, so she's being treated not well, because she's the odd kid out. So there's a lot of bullying going on, and so the story is kind of her adapting to her earthly situation, but partway through the book, she will learn that she's not from there. She's from someplace far away and far different than that. So and then so she's got to deal with that as well, as if being a teenager is not hard enough. You find out that you're from another planet, and deal with that too. So, anyways, that's just kind of what's part of my thinking was when I was writing that one.
Do you have plans to continue it? Maybe another one to go along with it? Is it going to be a series possibly?
Boy, that's tough to say, because I've got so many projects planned right now. I would say, if that one, I left it, and you'll see when you read it, I left it open to where it could lead to a book two. I don't know how much farther I could go than that. I could probably get a book two out of it. I don't think it would be a whole series, but I think it really is going to depend on how well it does, because I've got some other projects that I really, really want to get to. And so I don't know, maybe someday there'll be a Fester too, but I want to wait and see. If it's really popular and I get enough outcry for it, then maybe I will.
Well, now I have to ask. Your titles are interesting, to say the least. I mean, you've got Wicked Awake, but then you've got Wicked Awake Liquor When She's Dead. How do you come up with these titles?
And I don't know why people have asked me. They think that title's nasty. I mean, it's just about somebody, he's drinking a lot of liquor because his woman is dead. I mean, I don't know. It seems like a lot of people have misconstrued that title, but no, it was meant to be kind of a double-edged.
Yeah.
program.
I like it. I think it's kind of cool. I wouldn't
I,
say nasty. I mean, you look at the spelling and you obviously know that it's liquor, not lick her.
right. Yeah. But yeah. And I do that, but I think the more you read my stuff, I think you'll see I do that. I do that a lot. It's not just with the book title. I have a blast name. I know. I think some authors or a lot of authors maybe they just number their chapters. I don't know. I love putting names on them, and I love putting good like names like that on there, like chapter names where people be like, because I always do that myself. I don't read a ton, but when I pick up a book, I'll go straight to the beginning, and I'll look at the chapter names, and I'll be like, I don't know why I do that, but I'll see some chapters and be like, huh, I wonder what that one's about, and just based off of the title of the chapter, and so
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to do that where people will be reading through my chapters and be like, what the heck could that possibly mean, and just make them curious, and so I do a lot of wordplay in my
Yeah.
titles and stuff like that too. So it's kind of fun.
Well, sure. It gives the readers a little something to kind of look forward to, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm trying to stand out a little bit. I don't,
Well,
you know,
sure.
how many zombie books are there where, and I know I got dead in the title, Liquor when she's dead, but how many zombie books, are dead? The word dead is in the title. The dead alive. They're
Yeah.
alive, dead, the dead are awake. But that's why Wicked Awake. There's no dead in there. I'm trying to do something original, unique, and so I'll use dead in there. But if I use dead in there, it's gonna be different. It's gonna be funny. It's gonna be like a little play on words. So I'm just trying to be a little bit creative. That's all.
Well, your books do hold a lot of humor as well as the disgusting because there's some pretty gruesome things in there. But it does hold a lot of humor too, which kind of lightens the whole horror part of it,
I try to infuse a lot of or not a lot, but quite a bit of humor, as well as the action. But yeah, I try to make it like I said. I'm doing this for fun, and so I want people reading the book to be having fun too, or else they may decide what this is just like every other zombie book. Not that there aren't other zombie books that are humorous.
Right.
I know Javon Vaughns has got a series out there. They say it's hilarious. Um, so there are other people doing stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I just try to make it fun for the reader. And like I said, I'm having fun with it myself too. So
That's all that matters. I mean, somebody once told me, another author, as a matter of fact, said that you have to write what you're going to enjoy. Otherwise, nobody else is going to enjoy it either. So, I mean, it makes sense to me.
yeah, I believe that definitely. I think that's an accurate statement. Definitely.
So, okay. This is something that I am personally really looking forward to. So, I want you to tell our viewers all about what is happening for you in July, what you have planned.
Yeah, so we've got our big Texas Author Con coming up in July. So initially, this was something that me and Jamie Hernandez, who's also from Dallas, this is something that we've been talking about doing for a couple of years now. And so we're both in the same Facebook group, Written Undead. And so, or she was for a while. She's in another group, but that's how we got to know each other, and we've been wanting to do this for a while since we're both in Dallas. So we're like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did book signing event together? And so, and then of course, COVID happened, and that kind of ruined it. And then trying to find a place that was open to us coming in, it wasn't that easy either. Like I found a couple places they were open to having one of us, but not both of us, just because they didn't have the space. And a lot of people, a lot of businesses they're still a little bit worried about the whole COVID thing. It's not quite as bad now, it's starting to calm down a little bit, um, but and then there are the conventions out there. But I've learned real quick, if you don't get booked in some of these conventions early, I mean, you're not going to get in there. So we were talking about, so what can we do? And so initially, this was just going to be a thing with me and Jamie, just doing a book signing event, and that's where it started. So got a place booked, and we're like, you know what? There's a lot more space here, and so let's see if there's. And then she's like, I know Nick Stanishek. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a fantasy writer, and
Mm-hmm.
he's in Dallas, and he's starting to get pretty well known, pretty big. So she's like, he actually said if we do something, he'd be interested. And then so we started kind of looking. She did a lot more of the research than I did. She found a lot of these writers that I didn't know that they were in Dallas, and so we're up to 12 authors now, and we've got another guy, Joe Garcia, who has an awesome t-shirt vending uh, uh, booth as well. So he's going to have
Oh
all kinds
wow.
of cool shirts and merch and stuff like that. So, but yeah, 12 authors. Uh, we got. I don't know if you're familiar with the Splatterpunk, but a few of them have done some
Mm-hmm.
good work at Splat. Chris Miller has done it. Um, I'm just learning these guys' names, so I don't even remember some of them. Oh, and then Richard Rose. Richard Rose is also in our Written Undead group. He writes a really cool. He's got a really cool series uh, where Sasquatches and zombies are kind of combined in the same world and all that stuff. So he's going to be there. He actually lives down in San Antonio. So it should be a really fun event. It's a Sunday afternoon, July 10th. I forget the hours. I think we're doing like 1 to 6 or 1 to 7 or something like that. But we're going to have door prizes, giveaways, and then of course, the book signing. And it should be a lot of fun. So, and hopefully this will be the first of many to come. So.
Do you see it if you do decide to do another one? Assuming this one's successful, which I have no doubt it will be. But do you see like branching out into different genres, or are you planning to just keep it horror for future?
Well, yeah, I mean, it already has. I mean, so it started as it was just going to be a horror, and actually we were going to call it like the Texas Horror Convention or something like that. So, but so Nick Stanishek does fantasy. There's another author. His last name is Hansen. I forget his first name. I think it's R.L. Hansen. He writes fantasy as well. So right now, I think it's all horror, and then fantasy. So, but
Okay.
the majority of it is horror writers. Alethea Morgan is another uh, uh, author, and I think she kind of does a little bit of she does horror, but I think she also does some kind of like mystery stuff too. She's got several books out there, so so maybe someday it'll be even more genres mixed in there. But right now it's mostly horror and a little bit of fantasy.
I do hope there is another one. I mean, I'm looking forward to the first one, but yeah, we
You,
don't
you
have
def-
a lot of that stuff out here.
yeah, you definitely going to come out to it.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. I am definitely going to be there.
Very cool. Very
This
cool.
will
Yeah.
be my first, not horror convention, or actually not convention, period. I usually go to the Comic Cons and such,
Yeah.
but I've never been to just a full author convention, and this is like my thing. So I'm excited.
Yeah. So this is I mean, several of the authors have been to shows before. So, but this is my first one. This is Jamie's first one. So this is really going to be kind of a new experience for most of us. Richard Rose has never been to one, so a couple of the dudes have, but for the most part, this is a brand new experience for us. So we'll I'm sure some things will work, some things may not, but I'm sure we'll be doing it again down the road, and like of course using the things that worked and probably changing things up a little bit here and there. But I'm sure we'll be doing it again.
Okay, so thank you so much, Merrill David, for talking with us today. I appreciate everything, and I'm so looking forward to meeting you in person in July.
I can't wait. Thanks for having me on the show. And yeah, I'm excited to see you too. So thanks for having me on and have a great night.
Absolutely, you too.
Thanks.
And there you have it, guys. So, if you live in this area, you should definitely look into coming out in July. It's going to be a lot of fun getting to meet all these different authors, having your book signed, of course. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. But again, I want to thank Merrill David for joining us today, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Thanks so much for stopping by.